Tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you all for listening and getting ourselves ready for our next keynote speaker. It is a real pleasure to introduce our next keynote speaker, Rachel Taulelei. Rachel is a visionary leader, entrepreneur and champion for kaitiakitanga, gender equity and inclusive leadership. As co-founder of Oho and co-owner of Tokomanua Queens, she is shaping the future of sport and recreation. Not to mention, she is the mama of a super talented daughter who is living her best life in the US playing college basketball. Rachel is a true powerhouse, and what a treat it is to have her with us this morning. Today, Rachel explores how intergenerational collaboration can bridge divides, empower rangatahi and wahine, and create lasting impact. Please welcome the brilliant Rachel Taulelei to the stage.
Walking song. O tēnā rā tātou, ko tai mai nei I tēnei ata, tēnā koutou. E mihi ana ki te mana whenua, ki te atiawa, tēnā koutou. I te rangatira, Raylene, tēnā koe. O te rā te ao hā kina kina, tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnei te mihi mai o hā kia koutou katoa I tēnei rā. Ko waiau, ko Ngāti Raukawa ki te tonga, ko Ngāti Rārua, ko Ngāti Kōta hoki ngā iwi, ko Ngāti Huia, ki Katehiku tōku hapū, ko Rachel Taulelei tōku ingoa. Morena everyone, morena, really nice to see you. I love when I have brilliant in my introduction, it sets the bar pretty high, so let's see how the next half an hour goes. My name is Rachel Taulelei and it is my absolute pleasure to join this part of your conference. It is an incredible lineup. In fact, when I came in here this morning and I saw Dave Latelli sitting in the front, I was like, oh no. To speak after that guy, it's like the shortest straw in the universe. But between him, you had Jenny May, you had Matua Ken Laban's here, Rob Gold's here, you've had King Kapisi. It's like the Oscars of sport in this room. So it's great to slide in behind all of those people. And what a time to be in sport, especially here in this city, the centre of the universe. We have the ABs and the Black Ferns in the weekend. We've got Wrexham on Saturday. Anyone coming to Wrexham? I can personally introduce you to Ryan Reynolds. Anyone coming to Wrexham? I happen to chair Sky Stadium, so that may or may not have been a lie. You'll never know. The guy I've been asked this morning to speak on, as Jenny May said, the intergenerational wisdom and the future of sport, about how honouring both tradition and innovation can bridge generational divides, ensuring that sport and recreation remain relevant, sustainable and transformative for all. Holy hika! Like, what was that? I remember the call about a year ago, might have been a bit sooner than that, asking if I could come and speak at the conference this year. And I said yes. And then about a month or two later, I asked what I was speaking about, and that was it. So I've had some time to think about it, and those of you who know me will know I've probably got thoughts on anything. You just need to pull the chain. So here we are, and I do have thoughts on all of those things. And I'm going to start with the punchlines. So the punchlines around those for me, first up, in my humble opinion, within Te Ao Māori, which is where I derive intergenerational wisdom, innovation is that tradition. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, and they're in fact the same. We are an innovative people. So respecting one means that you are embracing the other. My second punchline is that we all have the opportunity, responsibility even, to be innovative. The trick is to do it in an authentic way, and that's what endures. That's what allows you to shape the future. So I encourage you after the next half an hour, but certainly after these 2 days, to be innovative, but to be it in a way that is you. And I saw some of those companies come up here this morning and show you innovative, authentic versions of themselves, because we are the generation with the wisdom derived from our forebears, from our surroundings and our upbringing, so we get to shape the future. And I'll just say that one again, is that we, in this very room, and obviously those young ones who aren't here, although actually I thought I could be one of the young ones. It's all relative, but I sometimes consider myself, albeit young at heart, to be one of those young ones. But we're the generation that get to shape the future. We derive that knowledge, we derive that motivation from our forebears, we're the product of our upbringing and our surroundings, so we get to shape the future. Which is no easy task, but it's the one that we have, as I said, the responsibility to do. So now we have the punchline, everyone can relax, and I'll fill in some of the blanks as to how I got to that point. And the easiest way I thought I would share that with you is through showing you a bit of a case study, to show it to you practically, one of the ways that our whānau has been innovating, and a case study, if you will, specifically in the space of women's basketball. So introducing you, some of you will be known to this team, or this team will be known to you, but introducing you to the Tokomanua Queens. And I should tell you, thank you. Woo, that's our team. You know, our house is basketball mad, and in all honesty, I was not a player. I was a netballer, loved netball. Mum was a netballer, I was a netballer, skipped a generation, and our girl's a basketball player. And actually, the thought of bouncing a ball and moving my feet at the same time is pretty hysterical. Some of you will know that. Nick Kavanagh's in the room. We used to be roomies back at university. He'll tell you categorically that would be hysterical. But my husband's been the CEO of Wellington Basketball for more than a decade, and our daughter is at Iowa State University on a basketball scholarship. This is her. I made that, guys. Thank you. Totally humble, but not really boast, but she's over at Iowa State University, as Jenny May said, living her best life. And what it all means, though, is that we are all in on basketball, and we know what it can do for people and communities in whānau, because we know what it's done for ours. So the Queens were formed back in 2022, and we came back, or early 2022, and we came out of the gates pretty hard. Our league, Tauihi Aotearoa, for those of you who are not aware of the league, was formed in 2021 when Basketball New Zealand recognised the need to level up the women's game. And some of you may have even seen the Tall Ferns play yesterday against Korea. Amazing game. They look strong, they look tough, they look better than I've probably ever seen them. So BBNZ created the league. They then went to the country, to the motu. They divided it into 5 parts, and they went to market. So you could bid on the rights to build a team, build a brand, build a franchise in your part of the world. Our part of the world was Wellington, Manawatu, Taranaki, Hawke's Bay. That's our catchment. So a group of us bid on the rights, and we won, and then we hit warp speed. So from the get-go in the Tauihi League development, our women were offered pay parity with their male counterparts, and last year that pay doubled. So as a result of that level of investment, and also because I think a lot of the players are pretty sort of curious about what is happening down here in Aotearoa, we now have WNBA players, we have Tall Ferns, we have women who are playing in the EuroLeague, we have Opals out of Australia and NCAA returnees all coming back to play in the New Zealand Pro Women's Basketball League. And some of them, it's the first time that they have ever played in Aotearoa in front of their whānau. For us, and we have one player coming this year, it's the first time she's ever played in Aotearoa. It's the first time she's ever connected with her Māori whakapapa, and we're a part of that link. Can I say who? Not yet. So it's big, certainly by way of potential, and it rewards the many, many, many wahine, some of who might even be in this room, who have gone before them. So they slept on floors, they played in ratty venues, they recycled their uniforms, and they bussed from far-flung parts of the country to the other. So their legacy, their intergenerational wisdom is very real for us. I wanted to use the Queens as the basis for my kōrero because, it's innovative. We think it's innovative, we know that it's innovative, but also because the team and the league are living manifestations of what the future of sport will come to look like. We're building into that, and categorically, we know that we won't get there unless we think a little bit differently, because what brought us to this point will not in fact get us to the next stage. I am here 100% for the intergenerational thinking that we've been discussing, with the proviso that every generation has to dramatically iterate on the last in order to remain relevant and positive and value accretive. We have to do more. We have to add to the story of, and through sport, as we are with the Queens, solve some problems. The problem that we're leaning into here is equity for women in sport, participation for our girls in particular, and like so many others that you have heard this morning. In fact, I feel like I had to come up with better stories to support this story because they were so impressive this morning. It's ultimately about wellness for our kids. So using basketball as the Trojan horse, we can support our kids through that bigger game, the bigger game of life. Actually, funny story, I banned the game of life in our house. We don't have the game of life in our house because it's built on 2 parents, 3 kids, go to university, get an office job, and I banned my child, who at the time, Lily, was like, I don't understand, Mum. I'm like, but you will, honey. It's not life. That's not what it looks like. Life comes like a technicolor, and it often doesn't work out like that, so let's not build our life on that game of life. But what we can do through sport, what we can do from the Queens, is try to build those muscles that they need to get them through their lives. So the idea of impact and having real impact for me doesn't happen without an unwavering commitment to excellence and also an appetite for risk. And a readiness to take on risk is what I think also almost describes at its core what it takes to build a business. The idea of conquering what's seemingly unconquerable. That huge mountain in front of you. And Walt, my husband, is always telling our daughter it's better to climb a mountain than a hill. So conquering what seemingly is unconquerable is what sits in front of us here. And building a sports franchise categorically fits into this space. So my time building businesses, and my background is not in sport. My background is largely sitting around business tables. I used to have a fish business. This is not necessarily my game, but all of the skills are transferable. Because striving for that excellence has led me to a couple of behaviours which I hold on to really, really tightly. They could be described as values. A couple of you have heard these. But one of those is about being invincibly optimistic, and one of them is about relentless ambition. And I will talk about these given half a chance to anyone. So being invincibly optimistic is the way that I like to wake up every morning. There is nothing between me opening my eyes and me putting my feet on the ground, unless I pick up my phone before that happens, that gets in the way of that. So you get to decide what your mindset is in that occasion. So if you start your day invincibly optimistic and you fall somewhat, it's somewhat better still than starting your day at the bottom and having to climb. Relentlessly ambitious is about whatever I turn my mind to. That's not about me. I'm not relentlessly ambitious for me. I'm relentlessly ambitious for whatever I choose to turn my mind to. So whether it is this project, whether it is a company that I'm involved with, whether it's our lands trust or any of the things that show up in my life, they get the same relentless ambitious treatment, which I'm sure is a treat for all of them all of the time. And then there's this. So one of the things they do at Iowa State, their coach, Bill Finley, who has been there 27 years, I think. He signed up. He'll have full 30 by the time he gets to the end of his contract. He loves leaving quotes all over the changing room. And this is from an NFL coach, Mike Tomlin, who was the Ravens NFL coach. And here's what this one is about. There's no substitute for work. You can talk about all kinds of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's about the work. Discipline, commitment, consistency, and sacrifice. So in his mind, and in my mind too, you have to work really hard with no excuses. So the first year of the Queens was an absolute calamity, below the scenes anyway. We were 100% building the tracks while the train was on it. Who even knew how to build a pro-women's sports franchise? The second and third years were different, but no less intense, because the more you know, the more you know. And we do know more now. We've had, this is our 4th season going into it, and a huge number of learnings along the way in the Queen's life. But I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, a couple of things I think have steered us well. The first is coupling a people-first approach with a business approach to building this franchise. And those two things have been key. So a couple of lessons to share with you in this section around, innovation, the way that we search for it, around transformational change and driving excellence so that we can contribute to the future of sport, as I'm experiencing it at least. The first of them is that you've got to build your endeavours, whether that's the trust this morning, the job that you have, the NSO that you lead, whatever they might be. In our experience, you cannot build those endeavours for anyone else. You've got to build them rather for anyone but yourself. You can build them for the fans as we do, you can build them for the players as we do, for the potential as we do. But if you want to be anywhere for the long term, you can never build it for yourself, for your ego, or for the glory of any of the minutes. And I can tell you how glorious it is humping t-shirts around in the back alleys of the Taulelei Arena at midnight. It's pretty glamorous, guys. But that's what it's about. It's not about building it for us, it's about building it for other. And so many of us in this room are built for servant leadership. I dare say the vast majority are, and that is firmly woven into the Queen's DNA. And we are committed to it for the kids and a new generation of fans. Also probably preaching to the converted in this sense, but movement and participation and belonging, as you've heard this morning, they're the unlocks to our kids' wellness. And that is the unlock to education and employment and livelihood. So they are deeply connected, they are inextricably connected. And in our instance, the very tiny, tiny, tiny part that we play just involves a ball. It's pretty simple. The second one is to build for where you want a business or the franchise or a trust or a project to land, not for what's right in front of you. So when we started the Queen, we did not build it for Tauihi, the league that we play in. We built it for much, much more. And really we did it for three reasons. The first was for the love. For the love of the game, for the love of our girls, and also for the love of our rohi. You know, we often talk about, despite repping the lower North Island, there's a big kind of 0-4 to the world jam to that. The second one was for change, and that's about reforming old ways and stepping into equity, as I said, making dramatic changes and iterative changes on what people before us have done and laid us up to do. The third one was building a culture. So we did this for the culture of building a team and a whānau to celebrate new school ball. And this describes almost women's sports across the board. You know, if you look at our Black Ferns, if you look at our hockey players, you look at our basketball players, our soccer teams, these women are just rising and rising and rising and rising. So it's about building a new culture of women in sport. Where we want it to get to, and some of these images are on the screens, you can see them here, is we want to have love on full display through the mahi that we do. So fandom, full stadiums, huge pride. Pride is a big one for us. It's our icon in the top left-hand corner. No regular mascots for us. We don't use the M word, we use the icon word. That's Nova Star. She was our second queen. You know, as the queens, you've got to have a queen. Our first queen, Blue, got too busy for her. This is Nova. Nova bloody moved to Perth not long ago, so we'll have a new queen going into this season. Took everyone by surprise, but I tell you, from 5-year-old girls to 50-year-old men, Nova was a hit. Yeah. So we also want to have like more stars within reach. When you elevate the game and you provide inspiration for rangatahi, in the process of doing so, you inspire them. But behind that is creating an environment where you are developing complete and well athletes. Sometimes we talk about the Queens, it feels like the athletes are somewhere back in the distant background, and they're not. They're central to it. But we also know, without the fandom, without the full stadiums, without people really loving this experience, there is no team. And finally, it's about showcasing Queen styles, which is definitely what you see here, which is why, you know, with no ordinary game, we've got Chefu doing a halftime act there, because that's about Queen style. That's about coming together of sport and fashion and street style, that real swagger that you can develop that helps you fend off the hard parts of your day. That's a Queen style. So we want to do all of this in a way that's relevant to our kids, as I said, that's fun and aspirational. So it's 100% about lifting your sights and building for a future state, and never underestimating the impact you can have if you put your mind to it. A huge part of our journey is rooted in our values. So this really comes about through, I suppose, who Walt and I are, and how that manifests itself through the Queens, how it guides us into the future. And this is also where our intergenerational learnings really show up. Shows up in our values. We've got 4 values in the Queens, and they are, as you see them on the screen, we like to say them in different ways because different things work for different people. But the first of those is about hustle, like hustling hard. You have to go hard or go home in the Queens. As the whakatauki reads probably more eloquently than I just put it, you have to respect the person with calloused hands. So you've got to grind, be prepared to put in the work to transcend that idea of place and time and court and appeal and following, and it's very much in the lane of the last quote that I shared with you. It is hard work. The second one is about whānau, or connection, as it's written there, because as it says, a person nurtured in the community contributes really strongly to society. So we are very strong on the idea in the Queens that no matter the heights you reach, it will be whānau first, and it absolutely takes a village, because the people who got you there, the people who got you to the Queens, will be the people who are there when the ball stops bouncing. The third one is about originality. You might have got that one already, but it's also about breaking boundaries. And this is a fun one, because what we mean by originality is that you need to, stand up and shine bright. So in Te Reo Māori, it's about sharing your gifts with the world. In Te Reo Pākehā, it's about being the best at what you do. Not because of equality and not because of gender rights, but because literally you are the best. So we support our team to aim for nothing but the top spot. We encourage them to master their craft and to go for gold and to maintain a never fold mentality. And one of the people we work with in this space, I know some of you also work with, is Luke Rowe. He's an incredible young man with incredible talents in the mental skills space. So he's part of our never fold mentality. He's away with Black Sox at the moment. The fourth one is about leading the way, or class. So as it's written, let it be one alone that stands amongst the stars in the sky. So stay true to your beginnings, because for the players who come into our fold, they're what make them real. And they what make them relatable to the fans. So what keeps them humble and paves the way for others. They come out of that class. They come out of their originality. They come out of what they show when they hustle for what they're doing. So we push very hard on the idea of we, not me. The greater good, really, within what we're doing comes from that collective good and never for that of an individual. And in my experience, that's how you lead the way. It's an idea that we really, really pushed into last year. The first year, as I say, calamity might have been too strong a term, but it felt like that at the time. The first year we threw everything but the kitchen sink at the Queens because we felt like that was the thing to be done. The second year, that became an expectation of everyone, and so we did it again, but the expectation, once you give, the expectation rises, and it got a little bit sticky in the team. We couldn't work out why it was just not landing quite right. Finally cracked it over Christmas. Walt and I go away for about 4 or 5 weeks every year to see our daughter who's in the States because she never can come home. So that's like our little 4-week Queen's wānanga together. It's great quality time. But we cracked the idea that, in fact, our team is about utu. It's about reciprocity. Aroha mai, aroha atu. We will give, we will receive. Koha mai, koha atu. So we drummed that into our players from the get-go, whether they were Māori, non-Māori, Samoan, Fijian, Niuean, Tongan, Australian, Korean, it doesn't matter. The concept sticks. The concept of reciprocity and an exchange of value is universal. And that's the one that we rest ourselves on within the Queens, because whilst it is a luxury and a privilege for us to have our Queens equally, we're providing them with an experience of a lifetime. They have the gift of interacting with our kids. So that's an incredible gift for them. So in saying that, the Queens really is a whānau. It's not so much a team. In this photo here, you have our first Queen's baby. That's baby Nix. Her mama is on the top right with her tongue stuck way out. Kalani Purcell. In one of our seasons, one of our big players went down in our second season, and we had 48 hours to find a new player who could come over and play in her place. So we were sort of Kalani, who 12 weeks prior had Nix. So she turned around her life, came over, we accommodated her pepe, her mama, her dad, everyone came and we accommodated them all because that's how you embrace people into the team. I will say after her first game, she came over to me because she wasn't exactly playing at that point, not 12 weeks after having her baby. She came over after the first game and said to me, "Everything is leaking." And for the mamas in the room, they'll know exactly how that would have felt. I don't think I played 12 years after having a baby, let alone 12 weeks after having a baby. But we're a whānau, we're not a club. We do ensure that we're really built on that commitment to excellence and meaningful change. We are pinnacle play, and we're here for the long term sustainably. But that comes with challenge. We are challenging ourselves, we're challenging a code, we're challenging people's ideas around what women's basketball could, should, and will be like. So we're challenging other. Fill in that blank. Suffice to say, at the Queen, we really set the bar higher than even we can reach, but we keep lifting towards that. And our right now push, our next frontier, if you will, not that we've cracked the Queens, but, we've got a Queen's Foundation that we've set up. And so many of the messages this morning resonated with me. But over the last few years, the good we saw happening at the Queens, the good we saw with all of these young, beautiful kids coming in, just getting fizz at the games, and then when we went to the schools, that felt good. And in my mind, if a little bit is good, a lot must be much, much better. So we decided to set up a foundation to formally create opportunities for positive impact on our kōrero, on our young girls. And the foundation's broader mandate is to support participation of rangatahi in basketball. Not cracking the atom, certainly not the the first ones to do it, certainly not that. There's many others who are doing that. But whether it's through mentoring or wānanga focused on nutrition or academics or pathways, identity is a lot of the work that we have in the pipeline, or skills development, or financial support. We heard this morning from our wahine in Auckland around breaking down those barriers to participation by even making sure they have the right shoes to play in, their own shoes to play in. That's what the foundation has been set up for. And as I say, it's not new in this space. We're probably latest to the party, but it's the way that we are doing it and the way that we innovate through the Queen's and then the Queen's Foundation. It is drawn from the culture and our values, and it is led out in the way that we work within the Queen's. So drawn from the values and led by our culture. And man, it is tough. It is tougher to mobilise a foundation than it is to mobilise a professional women's sports team, which was like new news for me. But that's okay, because in a way it made me more determined. Seeing game plan and Dave's presentation this morning makes me want to work harder to get it up on its foils. Jenny and I was saying before, it just makes you feel a bit less than when you hear those stories, like, man, I really need to do more. But the programs we have waiting in the wings are those. We've got programs that teach our kids in Kura Kaupapa and Kohanga how to play basketball in Te Reo Māori. We've got a partnership with the Saints and Wellington Basketball to have a Next Stars program for 48 rangatahi to come through in 2026, and a Manaaki Fund, much like you've heard this morning, so kids can get the right gear. We've got a program to help our kids build the muscles they need to stay the course when they go up into US scholarships. There is an extraordinary amount of premature finishing. The word is not failure at all, because they have succeeded in getting there, and they have made a decision. Everyone has agency, and they've made decisions not to follow it through all the way to the very end, because it's not for everyone. But if we can build those kids' muscles so that they can get through to the finish line, it's an incredible opportunity and experience for them to do that. But you have to actually get them ready. You can't step out the front door and run a marathon. You have to build those muscles and get them ready. So that's one of the things Foundation is established for. And then on the flip side, we've got a program ready to go around how do we help our women who are coming back, actually also men, but women have taken pole position, into the workforce. It's harder than you think to come back from playing in semi-pro leagues, either in the States or in Europe or around the world, to come back and get into the workforce. So that's one of the things that we're trying to wrap around as well. And like everyone, all we need is that silver bullet of enabling. Because ultimately, I think sport is elite. Sport is elite, and the Foundation aims to crack that nut, if only just a little bit. And if I had a dream for the future of sport, it would be that it's democratised, that if a child wanted to play, then they could, without restriction, without friction, without fear, and certainly without barrier. So as funders and administrators, I just guarantee that that's also yours. It must be. There's no way that it can't be if it's the job that you're in. And the good news is that there are literally tens of thousands of people out there at your fingertips to bring that to life. So, let me take us back to the very beginning, to the take at hand.
What if we created a basketball league where women rise? Where every dribble, every shot, every move you make inspires the next generation of young girls. A space where your gender doesn't define your paycheck or your chance to stand in the spotlight. What if we already did?
We all have the opportunity, responsibility even, to be innovative. The trick, as I said earlier, is to do that in an authentic way, so that it endures, so that it does shape the future. Nō reira, thank you for having me today. Have a great rest of your afternoon together. go buy your Queen's membership right now, www.queens.nz, and have an amazing afternoon. Kia ora.
I have a little gift for you, and I want to put it that way because I'll get rid of that. Sorry, I'm just setting myself because, man, I love you. Sorry. I'm throwing the big, way taller than I am. Tēnā koe te tuakana for your energy, leadership, wisdom, inspiration, and also for your inspo bombs. I love it. Invincibly optimistic, relentlessly ambitious. You put the Queen in the toko manawa queens, but also you are the Queen in the lives of so many wahine that you have inspired and that you get to connect with. Thank you for seeing them and their talent before they see it themselves and being in this position to be able to nurture that. I love what you're doing, and as you know, I love you. Can you please put your hands together for Rachel Taulelei? Beautiful. And I think that's the perfect way for us to cruise into our next sessions, which are the breakout concurrent sessions. We have the first one that's going to be starting at 11:30. That will go through to 12:15. Then you get 45 minutes for lunch, and then head to your second session, which goes through until 1:45. And then we're back in here for the afternoon session. So those are your sessions to head off to. So if you can do that within the next 5 minutes so we can get these sessions going on time, and then you get your full 45 minutes for lunch. Enjoy the afternoon and look forward to seeing you a little bit later on. Kia ora tātou.